Hello everyone. My name is Nadelka Sotelo, and I'd like to start off by welcoming all of you to today's event on behalf of the Brooklyn Public Library, New York Public Library, and Queens Public Library's Culture Pass program. I also want to thank our friends at JCAL, Jamaica Center for the Arts and Learning, and for being here and putting this event together for all of us. If you aren't already familiar, Culture Pass is a program that allows active card holders with all three of New York City's public library system to reserve free passes to visit 75 participating cultural sites across the five boroughs. Our normal service has been suspended due to the temporary closure of these partner organizations to COVID-19. So, today's free public event is part of a special series taking place over the course of this summer, bringing the cultural life of our city right into your home. So, please, you will find a full lineup of events at www.culturepass.nyc. I encourage you to check it out because we have programs for kids, teens, adults, and whole families. And before we dive into today's fun, I do want to quickly thank our sponsors. Culture Pass is made possible through generous funding from the Stavros Niarchos Foundation, Charles H. Revson Foundation, the New York Community Trust, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. The libraries are truly grateful for all this support. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our amazing teaching artist today, Alex Shapiro, who will be kicking things off. Thank you so much for being with us.
Okay, so hello everybody, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the cartoon illustration with Alex Shapiro. And I would like to first tell you a little bit about, oh, I'm just saying, okay, let me start over. It says I've just been made the presenter. Okay, I'm Alex Shapiro, and I am the instructor for today. I teach at Jamaica Center for Arts and Learning during the regular year and during regular conditions. Lately, I've been teaching virtual cartooning classes, as I am going to be doing today. Today's class is cartoon illustration, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that is. What is cartooning? What is illustration? And can they be the same thing? And then we're going to create our own original illustrations today, our own original cartoon characters. And so when we do that, we need certain supplies. And hopefully everyone has at least a pencil, right? So you could have just a regular pencil like this. This would be great, just like you'd see in school. And it even has an eraser on the back, which is really something you're going to need because artists really like to erase. Erasing is really important for us. And then it would be great if you had also a separate eraser like this. That would be very helpful because, again, artists like to erase a lot. And so the bigger your eraser, the more you can erase, the better, because sometimes we make mistakes, we want to erase them, and sometimes we want to try things different ways, and we'll erase things and draw them a different way and see how that looks. And so that's kind of important. And of course, we'll need a piece of paper. And so a piece of paper could be something as simple as printer paper, like this. Printer paper works great because it doesn't have any lines. But if all you have is notebook paper, the kind with the lines on it, that's going to be fine too. So don't worry about that at all. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you some examples of cartoons because everyone has a different idea in their head of what a cartoon is. So a lot of times people think of cartoons as what you watch on TV, and the cartoons are moving around. And the word that we use for that in in the cartooning world is animation. So animation are cartoons that move, but not all cartoons move. If you ever read a comic book, for example, you would see that cartoons don't always have to move. They can just be drawings. So cartoons are a certain kind of drawing, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. So I'm going to show you my screen here. Hold on. right here, I'm going to show you two drawings. I'm going to show you drawing right here. And this is what we would call just an illustration. This is not a cartoon illustration. This is an illustration. Now, this is an illustration of a boy. Now, I'm going to show you another illustration of a boy right next to it here. And there's two illustrations of boys. And you can see the difference between these illustrations. This one is very realistic. This illustration is not realistic. This is a cartoon style illustration. Now notice how things are drawn differently. For example, the mouth here is much more realistic. We see the detail of the person's mouth and the shape of their lips, and here it's just a line. And the same thing with the eyes. Here the eyes are closed. Here they're open, but still you can see how simply they're drawn, just lines here. The hair is just a couple of, kind of swirly lines here. Here there's a lot of detail, very subtle details. So this is much more realistic, almost as if someone took a photograph of it. Now there are more than one style of cartoon. Here's another cartoon style version of a boy. And you can see again, this is completely different, looks different than the other cartoon that I showed you. But it's still a cartoon. So cartoons don't always have to look alike. We call that a difference in style. Style means the way that it's drawn. And so here we see the illustration, which is realistic, and then we see the cartoon illustration, which is simpler. And here we can see the eyes are open this time. There's circle, basically circles within circles. Look at the nose, just this little line like that. So that's what we want to concentrate on today, is we want to concentrate on drawing in a cartoon style. Here's another example. Here's a girl with a dog. And this is an illustration that might go on the cover of a book about a mystery, this girl solving a mystery with her dog. Now we can look at a cartoon version of the same kind of subject here, and we see it's very funny. Here's a girl and her dog. Look at the difference. It's a huge difference. Look at how the eyes are drawn, circles with dots in the middle. Here, everything is much more detailed, much more subtle, much more realistic. The colors even are very variated. Here, it's just very bold and powerful and cartoony. Even we use the word cartoony, cartoon style, to describe those things. So it's another example. So we want to try to focus on drawing cartoon styles today, but cartoon style does not always mean simple. Sometimes cartoon styles can be like Japanese anime style. This is the kind of cartooning that's done in Japan. And was made popular in Japan, but now it is very popular here in the United States. And a lot of kids really love Japanese style animation. And some of you may draw in this style. And that's great if you do. A lot of times in my classes that I teach, I see kids practicing a lot how to draw the eyes, the special anime style way, and how to draw the shape of the faces. So today, if you would like to draw in this style, you can do that. So there are many different styles. The simple ones I showed you a minute ago, and then the little bit more realistic, like this is a little more realistic than the ones I showed you, this anime style, and that's just another kind of cartoon style. Cartoons never look super realistic though. They're always exaggerated. When I say exaggerated, if we look at funny exaggeration like Charlie Brown, who most of you know, look at how simple he's drawn. His head is a circle. His eyes are dots. His mouth is a line. So anyone out there today who's a beginner, you don't have to worry about drawing really well, because Charles Schulz, the cartoonist who created Charlie Brown, is probably the most famous cartoonist ever. And look how simply he drew. He didn't draw things super realistic and super impressive. He did things in a way that was kind of nice to look at. People like looking at it because it's kind of simple and it's fun. And so you can draw that way too. You don't have to draw realistically. On the other hand, though, some people like to draw realistically. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Most of you are acquainted with such characters as Spongebob, for example. He's not even a human being. So cartoons can be drawn of people, but they can also be drawn of animals and things that are not people and made to look and act like people. And Spongebob is a good example of that. Now, sometimes people do like to draw realistically when they draw things like superheroes. So for example, Spider-Man, that's pretty realistic. Now again, it's exaggerated. Now Charlie Brown was exaggerated kind of backwards, where everything was made extra simple, more simple than they are in real life. Spider-Man is exaggerated in the other direction. Everything is more than real life. His muscles are like, he's has more muscles, and the way he's moving is very exaggerated. In this picture, you can see very few people would actually have their body in that position. It's exaggerated. Exaggerated means much more or much less than would be in real life to make something look more powerful, as we see here, or more funny or fun, like we saw with Charlie Brown. And so, if we look at this, that's Spider-Man, and we're going to look at another superhero now that you might be familiar with. Captain Underpants. Some of you might have read Captain Underpants comic book. Look at these two superheroes, everyone. They're both superheroes, but look how they're drawn. Spider-Man on one side there is more realistic and drawn to be powerful looking and exaggerated to look powerful, and Captain Underpants is drawn and exaggerated to be funny. And so either way is okay. It depends on what you as the cartoonist would like to communicate to other people. And then if we look at other cartoon styles, here's anime again, which a lot of people like. Goku, this animated character, which is very different from the American style superheroes like Batman. They're in a similar position, but look at how different they look. In Japanese anime, you'll notice the eyes are exaggerated a bit. They're bigger than the American style eyes are. And look at the exaggeration of the clothing, all the wrinkles and everything. The muscles are exaggerated on both of them to make them powerful. So again, that's exaggeration, not to be funny, the way it's sometimes done, like Captain Underpants, but exaggerated to be powerful. And so we are now, let me give you one more example. Black Panther. He's a very, very cool character. He's a little more up to date. Batman's been around forever. Black Panther's been around a long time, but he's only become popular more recently. And you look at his uniform. So when you draw a superhero, you have to design the uniform or the whatever it is they wear when they're a superhero, which is different than when they are just ordinary people and they're not doing their superhero stuff. And so there's a lot of design involved in doing clothing design when you do cartooning, and sometimes designing spaceships and other things like that. So now we're going to be drawing in a minute. And before we do, we're just going to talk about a couple simple rules that we have when we draw. And you can draw anything you want. You can draw any way you want, of course. You are the artist, but we have some things that are goals we want to strive for today. And our most important goal today is going to be drawing in a way that is original. Now, some of you may know what original means. If you don't know what original means, I'm going to explain it as it pertains to artwork. Okay, so original means, I'm going to write the word here. Original. Original means the first of anything is the original. If your teacher takes a piece of paper and puts it on a copy machine, and she makes a copy for the class, everyone gets a copy of a paper, that first one she puts on the glass to make a copy is the original, and all the others are copies. So original is the first one, and anything else that's been done to look like it is a copy. So if I said to you guys, hey guys, we're going to draw an original cartoon character today, go ahead and draw an original cartoon character, and you did something like this, I would say, wait a minute, that doesn't look exactly original, even though you didn't finish. It doesn't look exactly original. Now, if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to type them anytime during my class here. So if anyone wants to guess at who this is, you can type that into your comment box and send it, and then I might be able to see it, or Ms. Nedelka will tell me what the questions or comments are. But this character here is someone that a lot of people know, even though it's not finished. And so this character wouldn't be original because if I were to start to finish him, it would start to look like Bart Simpson, which is not the original character, right? So that would not be original. That would be the opposite of original, which is a copy. Now, maybe you like The Simpsons. Maybe you like to draw like The Simpsons. If you do, you can draw in that style. Draw the eyes the same way, circles with dots in them. A lot of cartoonists draw eyes that are circles with dots in them. You know, Garfield has eyes like that. Spongebob kind of has eyes like that. But as soon as I put this spiky hair on, it becomes too much like someone we've seen before. And so I can change it. I can put curly hair on. And Bart has a little nose. Maybe give this one a different shape nose. Bart's face is kind of long. Make this guy's face wide. Bart doesn't have big teeth. I'm going to give this guy big teeth. Now I'll give him ears like Bart's. Bart doesn't have any eyebrows. I give this guy eyebrows. Now he doesn't look anything like Bart, even though we started out with the same exact eyes. I changed it to make it my own, and hopefully no one has seen this before. And so this is not a copy, this is original. Okay, so we want to try to do things original today. So as we're drawing, keep in mind, I don't want to draw the way I've seen other things look exactly. I can change them a bit, make them my own, maybe give a different hairstyle, different shaped eyes or mouth, try to make it my own. That would be excellent if you guys could do that today. And so one more thing before we begin drawing, and that is there is one other way that you can draw an original character without making it up out of your head. And this is what I do when I draw my cartoons. And when I draw my cartoons, I have a star of my cartoons. And I'm going to draw this character that I always draw up here real quick. Maybe you will have seen this person before. So I'm going to go ahead on my big pad here, and I'm going to draw my favorite character. Now, has anyone ever seen this person before? This person here? And you want to see that word? That's supposed to be me. So this is an example of an original character who's a real person. And so it's original when I draw it, right? So when I draw this character my own way, it's original. If you were to copy this, it wouldn't be original because you're copying my drawing. But if you were to look directly at me and draw me your own way, that would be original. And so an original character can be a real person, or it can be someone you've made up out of your imagination, either way. And so today when we draw, you could draw an original character you've made up from your imagination. You also could draw yourself, or you could draw your brother or somebody else, your dad or mom or somebody in a cartoon way. Well, that would be okay too. It might be interesting today to just completely make up a character though. Even though this is okay, and sometimes cartoons are drawn about people who are real, today it might be fun just to try to make someone up completely. Now, when we do our drawings, here's a couple things that we're going to be doing today that I want to make sure everyone understands these tools that are used in cartooning. So, for example, it says here, welcome to Cartoon Illustration with Mr. Alex Shapiro. If I do this, and remember, feel free if you have any questions to type them into your chat. If I do this to these words, if I circle them, and then have a thing pointing to my head, does anyone know what that does to those words? Whenever you circle these things, you have something pointing to the head of a character. That means this person is saying these words. Okay, so I'm saying these words. Welcome to Cartoon Illustration with me. Make it more sense. Mr. Alex Shapiro. Okay, so now I'm saying that. Now, there's other things that we may notice about cartooning. A lot of times they're in boxes, like in comic books. Draw a quick box around it here. And so that's good. It's like a picture frame. When we do that, it's like a picture frame that frames the picture that we're drawing. Sometimes the picture will burst outside the box a little, like mine did here. That kind of is interesting looking. It makes it look powerful. And at top, sometimes you'll see one day, you'll see other words. There was a strange man teaching a class on the computer. So that's the narration. It's a strange man teaching a class on the computer. He said this. And then in the back, we put what is called the background. That's the ground in the back, the background. Okay, background is sometimes ground, sometimes it's hills, sometimes it's trees, and sometimes if you're indoors, it's things like the edge of a window. And sometimes, in this case, there'd be furniture because I'm indoors. And I've got a computer here that I'm working on. Okay, so we start to create a whole scene when we do this. Okay, so we're going to try to do that today. We're going to try to create a whole scene with a character in the background. Okay, so there's one other thing. If I do this, I'm hungry. I missed lunch. And I put a different kind of thing around it. This is a speech bubble. This thing looks like a cloud with little bubbles pointing at my head. This is different. I'm not saying those words. I'm thinking those words. And so the difference is these are things I'd say out loud, right? Welcome to Cartoon Illustration with me and Mr. Alex Shapiro. I would say that to you guys right now. That makes sense. I'm introducing myself. But I wouldn't say, when you logged on, I would not say, I'm hungry, I missed lunch. You would think that was strange, right? That's what I'm saying inside my head. That's kind of the secret stuff that I'm saying inside my head that I wouldn't say out loud. So that's the difference. So the things in our head we put in a thought bubble, things that we say out loud we put in a speech bubble. And with that, we're ready to draw. So everyone, make sure you have a piece of paper, make sure you have a pencil, and get ready because we're going to begin our drawing now. And we're going to draw together. So I have my big drawing pad here, you see, and you have your piece of paper, a pencil, hopefully with an eraser or a separate eraser, and we're ready to draw. Now, one quick tip, when you're drawing with your pencil and your eraser, press lightly with your pencil. Because if you press really hard with your pencil, it may be very difficult to erase. And if you make a mistake, you might have trouble getting that line off the paper. You might have experienced this in school when you press hard with your pencil and you're writing something and try to erase, it's not always so easy. So try to press lightly. And what makes the drawing dark later, we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about how to make the drawing darker later. For now, don't worry if the drawing is really light in pencil, that's okay. Don't worry about it. That's going to be good. You want it to be light pencil for now. Okay, now I'm going to keep drawing a marker. Now, as a professional artist, I would never do that. I would always draw in pencil first so I could change things and that I could erase my mistakes if I made them. But today I'm going to break my rule, and I alone will be using a marker because it will be seen easier by you on your computer than if I draw on pencil. So I'm kind of breaking the rule for that reason. But you guys draw on pencil, okay? All right, now, here's what we're going to do. We are going to draw a character, cartoon character, and we're going to draw it one step at a time. We're not going to draw it the way we normally draw, where we draw things kind of quickly. We draw the head and the body and the feet and everything. We kind of draw pretty quickly. We're going to draw and then stop, draw and then stop. Here's what I mean. Now, don't draw yet. This is just an example. So like I'm going to say, draw the eyes. You're going to draw some eyes. Then I'm going to say, draw the nose. You're going to draw a nose. Then I'm going to say, draw a mouth. We're going to take a break, think about what kind of mouth we want. You're going to draw the mouth. Then we're going to say, draw the shape of the head. You're going to draw the shape of the head. So that's the way we're going to do this. We're going to do it step by step. Don't go to the next step until I tell you to go to the next step, okay? Because we want to take a break in between each step. The reason we want to take a break between each step is that we want to think a little bit about what's to come next before we just draw really quick. We don't want to just draw the first thing we think of. We want to take a minute and, what would be good to draw next in my drawing? All right, so we're all set. I recommend that people hold their paper, right? And hold the paper this direction or this direction. This direction is called the horizontal direction. This direction is called the vertical direction. We want to hold our paper in the vertical direction. And the reason is we're going to be drawing today from the head all the way down to the toes. We're drawing the whole character. And so this direction will give us a lot of room to do that. But that also means that you should not be drawing things really big on it, because if you draw a giant head on this, you won't have room for feet. So you're going to draw the head like maybe, this big. You're going to draw the eyes this big. You're going to draw the nose, the mouth, the head's going to be about this big. Then you're going to draw the body later, and then you're going to later on draw legs and feet. So keep that in mind as you're going. Important part of being an artist is planning for what is to come. So we want to think ahead of where we actually are. And so if we're drawing all the way down to the feet, we want to make sure we leave room for that as we go. So first thing we're going to do, we take our pencil, we're going to draw eyes. Now, when I say draw eyes, there are many ways to draw eyes, right? We talked about Charlie Brown. His eyes were just dots. The Simpsons, their eyes are circles with dots. Spongebob, his eyes are circles with circles. Japanese anime style, a little more realistic. And those are kind of eyes that people have to practice a lot to make. And they look something like this much of the time, right? A little more realistic there. You also can do circles with a line and two dots. You can do even footballs with dots. Okay, so there's many ways to draw eyes. These are just a few. Maybe you have your own way that you like to draw eyes, and any way is fine, really. Just as long as people will look at your drawing and understand that those are supposed to be eyes. But even dots are okay. So up near the top of your paper, everyone go ahead and draw two eyes. I'm going to draw my two eyes here. And then stop. Now you'll notice I'm wearing a shirt with a lot of cartoon characters on it. Look at all those cartoon characters. Many of them, their eyes are circles with dots. So that is one way. You see Patrick here, right? SpongeBob circles with circles inside, Patrick circles with dots inside. But you don't have to draw eyes that way. You can draw eyes any of the ways that we were talking about. And I showed you those characters earlier, the Japanese anime and Marvel Comics superhero type eyes. Marvel Comics eyes, they're kind of like, Batman, Spider-Man, they're kind of like this. They're just a line. Yeah.
Hi, we have a question from
Yes.
Abraham. Does the character have to be a human?
That is a great question. And I think I had mentioned earlier that cartoons can sometimes be animals. They can sometimes be like SpongeBob isn't even, he's a sponge, okay? And you can do robots, space creatures. It could be even, you could take an object that isn't even alive, right? Like a cell phone, and put little legs on it and arms and have it walking around or something. So the question is a great question and does not have to be a human. So thank you for that question. I wish I would have said that ahead of time, because that was a really great question. So whether you're doing a human or whether you're doing an animal or a space creature or whatever, the eyes, any of these eyes would work. I was just talking about Marvel Comics eyes are kind of like this. They're not quite like anime eyes, they're not as big. You know, like Batman, Spider-Man, those guys, they kind of eyes, something like that. So there's many different kinds of eyes that you can draw. And you may have your own way of drawing eyes. You might get creative and draw some shape that looks like an eye. If your character has eyes, now that question that we just had makes me think for a minute. Maybe your character doesn't have eyes, right? If it's a space creature or something, or if it's some sort of object that is coming to life, it might not have eyes. There are some actual animals, I think, that like slugs. I don't know if slugs have eyes. You know, there might be some animals that don't exactly have eyes the way we do anyway. So everyone has their eyes. We're now going to go ahead and draw the nose. Now we talked about exaggeration. Now exaggeration, we talked about Spider-Man earlier. Exaggerated muscles. Incredible Hulk is a really good example of exaggeration. He's got bigger muscles than anyone would have in real life. So those are ways that cartoons are exaggerated to make them look more powerful. But cartoons can be exaggerated, and again, exaggerated means more than real life or less than real life in order to make something look powerful or cute or whatever, just more interesting looking. Okay, so exaggeration also can make things funny, right? So if I want to exaggerate and I was doing my nose, I might do a nose that looks like this. So it's very large nose. I have kind of a large nose. And you may have gone to carnivals or street fairs or amusement parks where there are artists there that will draw people and make them look very funny. And so when the person sits down and the artist starts sketching them, if that person has a nose that's a little bit big, the artist might make it huge. Or if their ears stick out a little bit, they'll give them huge ears to make them look funny. And so that's called caricature. That type of art is called caricature. It's a kind of cartooning where everything is exaggerated a lot to make things funny. And that can be done with regular cartoon characters too, not just real people. And so I've exaggerated the nose. So everyone draw your nose. And when you draw your nose, keep in mind, there are many ways. You can just draw a letter C. That works. You can draw a V on its side for a nose. You don't have to be the super artist, right? You can just do simple things. Japanese anime, in fact, their noses are usually very small, just like a little dash. You can even do an animal nose. We were just talking about that. And this one's going to have a pig nose. Okay, and then we have, maybe you just know the shape of the nose you like to draw. Here I'll do a J, letter J for that nose. There we go. So there's many ways you can draw noses. Here's some examples of eyes and noses so far. And then we have my exaggerated nose. And then we're ready to move on to the mouth. Now the mouth is very important because, and this is why we're taking like a break in between each step, because we want to think, what kind of mouth? Because the mouth is going to show whether the person is happy or sad or speaking or silent or singing. It shows so much about the person's expression. So for example, if I come back to this, he's happy, right? Curved line. Sad. Curved the other way, makes him look sad. This person, his mouth is open, they're talking. This character is tired, his tongue's hanging out. Ugh. This one here maybe is whistling or singing. And this one here maybe is nervous. Ooh. Okay, so look at those mouths. Look how much it changes the expression of each character depending on how you draw the mouth. And so try that now. Try drawing the mouth. So my guy's mouth is open. He might be talking. I haven't decided yet, but his mouth is open, showing his teeth a little bit. You know, you may be drawing a very different way. You may be drawing Japanese anime style or Marvel comic style or some other way, which is fine. All our drawings probably look very different right now, completely different from each other, and that's good. They should look really different from each other because that means they're more original. So hopefully you're not just copying what I'm doing. You're doing it your own way. Okay, so we have an eyes, nose, mouth. Now we're ready for the shape of the head. Now, the shape of the head, cartooning, when I teach art in schools, I tell the kids that drawing cartoons is not like other classes you take in school. Because other classes you take in school, there's usually one answer, right? If you take math class, 2 + 2 is 4, can't be anything else, has to be 4. If you're taking history class and you're talking about when was the Declaration of Independence, it has to be 1776. You can't say any other date. There's only one answer. But in cartooning, there are many answers to the same question. So if the question is, what is the shape of the cartoon character's head? There is not one answer. You can have many different shapes. I can do a circle. I can do a pear. I can do even a square kind of head. These Japanese anime style, they're kind of like this shape. Right? I can do a bean shape, sort of a weird shape like that. And I can do an upside down pear, almost like a space alien or Squidward. Okay, so there's all those different shapes that you can do. None of them is wrong, as long as they work like making it look like a shape of a head, right? It's going to be fine. So my guy, I'm going to do my guy's head, kind of a peanut shape, a bean shape. And everyone now should have their eyes, their nose, their mouth, and the shape of their head. And now we're going to draw the next step. The next step is going to be the ears. Now, when we're drawing our ears, we can do very simply, right? We can just draw a letter C with a little letter C inside, backward C inside. We talked about animals, right? We can give our character animal ears, right? We can give our character, like this guy might be an elf. Like an elf, maybe he has pointed ears like an elf. Okay, the Japanese anime guy is going to probably have very small ears. They're rarely large in most of those characters. Here, this guy's going to have Shrek ears, the weird ears, made up ears that look like horns. It can also be letter number 3, backwards 3, forwards 3 with a 3 inside. That kind of works too. So there's a lot of kinds of ears there. You may have a way of doing your own style of ears, and that would be fine. So my guy's ears, I'm going to exaggerate again. I like exaggerating my characters sometimes. So I'm going to draw big ears. Now, sometimes in cartooning, things are behind other things, overlap, behind. So this ear is hidden a little bit behind his nose. And so I can't see his whole ear. It kind of disappears behind there. His nose is in front. That's kind of an advanced way of drawing. If anybody wants to try doing that with any part of their drawing, having one thing in front of another thing. We sometimes do that with backgrounds. We might have one thing in the background, a tree in front of a house, and so you can't see the whole house because the tree's in front of it. And so we should have our whole face drawn now, and the next step would be hair. Now, if your character has hair, now, an important thing I probably should have said already is, you can skip any of these steps. If you don't want to draw a mouth on your characters, you can skip the step. You don't want to draw a nose, you don't have to draw a nose. As long as it looks like a character of some sort, you can do anything you want, including skipping steps. And when we talk about hair, yeah.
Sorry, this question actually relates a lot with what you're saying right now. It says, is it okay if my character doesn't have a face?
Doesn't have a face, yeah. Yes, you could have a character that they have everything but a face, right? And there may be a reason they don't have a face. It may be part of your story. And we're going to talk about stories later because the story explains why the character looks the way they do, why they act the way they do, and we can then explain why. Why does the person have a face? Are they from a planet where people don't have faces like we have, or did they lose their face and they're trying to find it? That could be an interesting story. There's a lot of different explanations for that. And the drawing itself may, if it's just an illustration, it doesn't go with the story, it might be an interesting drawing. People may wonder, why is that character all, you know, I can see everything, but I don't see a face. Is there a reason? And it may, people might find that interesting. And so, sure, you can skip the face if you want. You have to be careful about skipping too many things, though, because if you skip too many things, then people might not recognize it as a character. It just will become words if you have words with it. And so it's important that when we're doing a drawing that there's enough of a drawing there that people understand that there is something there. And so we're going to do the hair unless we're skipping that step. Now you'll see Mr. Shapiro does not have hair. So if this was a character like me, I might skip that step. But if the character does have hair, you could draw many different hairstyles: curly hair, straight hair, long hair, short hair, braids, barrettes, ponytails. There's so many different kinds of hairstyles. When I walk around the city, I see so many different kinds of hairstyles people have. And when I teach my classes, the kids have all kinds of really interesting hairstyles. Some kids have mohawks. You ever see those, where the hair is just right down the middle? So any kind of hairstyle you want, go ahead and draw. I'm going to draw like a fade. That's when you have a hair shaved on the side, and then there's more hair on top. So that's going to be my hairstyle, my guy. Now we're ready for the more advanced portion of our drawing, the body. Now the body should not be scary because we do it step by step. We can start by doing just the neck, 2 lines. As thick or thin as you want the neck to be, just draw 2 lines. And then underneath those 2 lines in this area, you're going to draw whatever shirt the person's wearing. Now I'm wearing a t-shirt, right? So this is just a curved line. If you're wearing a collar shirt, it would be like a V shape, okay, with the collars on the side. T-shirt's easiest, right? Just a curved line. Now he has a neck. And now we have the important part of it, his arms, his shoulders and his arms. And the reason this is important, we're going to think first, what is he doing? If he's standing waiting for the bus, his arms are going to be just to the sides, kind of like this, right? But if he's standing waiting for the bus and he's talking on his cell phone, you would have to draw 1 arm up. If he's standing waiting for the bus, talking on his cell phone and eating a hot dog, you would have to draw 2 arms up. So you have to decide, what is the person doing before you start drawing the arms. Now, so my guy here, I'm going to draw 1 arm up. Give him a t-shirt like I'm wearing, and 1 arm down. Now, when we get to the hands, the easiest way to draw hands, guys, if you're a beginner, is a mitten. You know, like in winter time when you wear a mitten, looks like this. That shape, and then just draw fingers on it. Easiest way. If you want to try to be a little more advanced, you want to draw the individual fingers in different positions, you can draw sausages. Now, some cartoonists talk about exaggeration. Exaggeration, I said, works both ways. It's more or less than real life. You'll see a lot of cartoonists that only have 4 fingers, a thumb and 3 fingers. You'll see this a lot. Mickey Mouse, Spongebob, I think, Simpsons, they just have 4 fingers. If you want, you can draw all 5 fingers, though, that's fine. And they're just like little sausages with one that's shorter, that's the thumb. The short sausage is the thumb. And then when you do the arms, you come down and you draw where the belt would be. Now notice this guy's head is going to be much too big for his body. That's another type of exaggeration. Okay, there are ways to draw things very realistically proportioned. For example, you would draw the head, and then the character would be 8 heads tall, and that would be the correct proportion. And that's done usually in more realistic type of cartooning, like superhero drawing, where there's a formula for drawing things in proportion. But when we're just having fun drawing cartoon characters or drawing funny characters, we don't have to really worry about that so much. And so don't worry if yours is like mine and the head is really big. That's kind of a caricature style of drawing really big heads on people. So we draw down to where the belt would be, and then we would draw the legs. Now the legs, they are either straight up and down if the person's waiting for the bus, or if they're running it for the bus, their legs will be in a different position, and we have to think about what that position would be. Sometimes we have to pose that way before we draw to see what it looks like. Like I look down at my legs and say, what does a running position look like? Or jumping or dancing, or whatever it is the person's doing. So I'm going to draw my guy dancing or running. I'm going to make him running. He's missing the bus. I give him shorts. I want to make his leg curved. People's legs don't really curve that way, but it's an exaggeration of someone having really loose legs and they're moving very loosely. And I'm going to give him really big feet. So now he's running. He's not just standing there. Now, there's a lot of other things we can do. I can make things look a little more 3D, for example, if I'm a little more advanced artist. You might have some teenagers that are more advanced and can do things like this, or some really advanced elementary school kids that can draw things like a little more 3D. You see his legs are coming out from inside his shorts like that. You see the opening in his shorts. So now we have our character drawn from the head down all the way to the feet. And now we have one of the most interesting parts of our drawing. This is adding details. Now, details are all the little things, the extra things you either forgot to add or you just decide you want to add later to make your drawing more interesting. An example of a detail might be something I forgot, like eyebrows in this case. I forgot to draw eyebrows. I'm looking at them thinking, you know, I want to draw eyebrows. So that's a detail. Going to give him a unibrow. Look at that, one big eyebrow. And so that is an example of a detail. Another detail might be a design on a shirt. Lightning bolt. Okay, so designs on clothing, stripes, polka dots, things like that, right? And detail might be earring, jewelry. That's a detail. Detail might be a hat. Or a backwards ball cap. A detail could be something funny. He's got a pet bird sitting on his nose. There's a detail. So these are all details. You can think of whatever details you want. Any kind of designs on his clothing. And you can add those details to his clothing, to his face, if he has anything, or a chain around his neck, something in his hand that he's holding. Here, I'm going to have him. You guys know what this is? Kids don't use this so much anymore. When I was a kid, we used to have yo-yos. So yo-yo. I taught at a junior high school last year, and there was a kid who had a yo-yo, and he was trying to learn how to do all kinds of tricks on it. I'm so surprised because I didn't think the kids used yo-yos anymore. So this guy has a yo-yo. He's running. And we're going to go ahead now and put a box around the whole thing. Just like a comic book. You can do it as straight as you can without a ruler. Once you have all the details drawn, the next step is to draw a box around the whole thing. And then we want to name the person. We want to think of an original name. So the name can't be Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, or Bart Simpson. Or think of a name that maybe the person looks like what their name is. For example, Spongebob SquarePants. He's a sponge. He has square pants. His name is Bob. So Spongebob SquarePants is his name. It describes him. So that's one way to do it. Mickey Mouse. Mickey is his name. Mouse is what he is. Donald Duck. But then you have like Bart Simpson, Goku, characters that just have names, regular names. They're not descriptive names. It's up to you. I'll leave it up to you. I'm going to give my guy a descriptive name. His name's, he's going to be introducing himself, and I'm going to draw the word, write the words first, and then put the speech bubble around it. So I'm sure that the words will fit. So next to his face, I'm writing him introducing himself. I am Yo-Yo Joe. Because he always carries his yo-yo, he's Yo-Yo Joe. So I write the words. They don't have to be in a sentence. They can be one on top of another like that. That works okay. And then I put kind of a circle around to give him lots of breathing room. And I have it pointing to Joe. Joe saying those words. And then you can have him thinking something. It's in a hurry. I made a funny mistake. It's not exactly a mistake, but I put a pattern on his pants. It almost looks like he's wearing his underwear. I'm thinking about Captain Underpants, that character I showed you earlier. So maybe Joe was in such a rush to get to the yo-yo competition that he forgot to put his pants on. Uh-oh. I forgot my pants. And that is something he would not say out loud. He's worried about that. And so it's in his speech bubble. And then the final step is putting the ground under his feet. And where is he? Are there mountains back here? Is he in the country? Or is he in the park? Are there trees and hills? Is it the beach? Is there a beach behind him? So I'm going to go ahead and give him buildings. It's a sunny day, there's clouds, there's birds, and that's all you need. You don't need lots of detail. You can just give the suggestion of where he is. He's in the city through a sidewalk under here. He's running to catch the bus. He's late, maybe. And at the top, I could even write, Joe was late for school. So that kind of, any words you put at the top explains what's going on in the drawing. That's called the narration, the narrator's voice up there. Okay, so here's my finished drawing. And you hopefully will soon have your finished drawing. Now, the last very important step is, of course, to sign your work. Now, all artists should sign their work. We want people to know that it's your drawing and you want to take pride in your drawing. And so I'm going to write my name at the bottom. And you should write your name somewhere at the bottom. We don't write it at the top because we don't want people to think that our name is part of the title of the drawing. We always kind of put it down at the bottom somewhere so it's kind of out of the way. We want people to see it, but we don't want people to think it's part of our drawing. So that's why it's usually on the bottom somewhere. And then yours is in, your drawing is in pencil. And so the next step would be to take a marker of some sort, of flare, Sharpie, they even have like skinny Sharpies like this. Any of these marker pens in black would be best, and trace over all the pencil, every single line, every word, every bit of that drawing, trace it with black. And that's what makes it dark. You would probably never see a cartoon comic book or anything that's in pencil. If you look closely at them, they're almost always been traced with black ink. And so if you look at my shirt here, all these are black lines. There's no pencil. All these cartoons have black outlines. Okay, so tracing over your pencil with a black marker is very important. It gives your drawing a look like it's finished, and it doesn't look just like a sketch. Now, if you don't have a marker, a black marker, you can even use like a ballpoint pen. Most people have these in their house. This one actually came from a bank. So they gave free pens at the bank. I got a free ballpoint pen at the bank. And this would work too. Markers are best, pens are okay though. All right, so when that is done, and you have your drawing completely traced with black ink, then and only then you have the option. Option means you can do it if you want, but you don't have to. It's optional. Optional means if you want, you can color it. You can color it using colored markers, colored pencils, crayons, whatever you have. You can color your drawing if you want. You don't have to color your drawing. There are a lot of cartoons that are what's called black and white, black ink on white paper. If you want to color it, that's great. You can do that. But my tip is do not color over pencil. If you color over pencil, the color is going to be too powerful. Again, this shirt, you can see how powerful the cartoon colors are. If this were pencil lines, they would disappear. And it would just look like blobs of color. But the hard, black, powerful lines of the ink hold the color inside. And just like when you would color in a coloring book, I mean, you've ever done that, probably you have. You stayed in the lines, and those black lines really held those colors in there and made it look really good. So that's kind of important to make sure you don't color over pencil. Once you have that done, you are done with your drawing. Once it's colored, that would be the final step. Or if you leave it in black and white, that would be the final step. If you are a super advanced artist who's also a writer, you could also create with a ruler paper with boxes on it, and you could create a comic strip. Comic strip works where it's left to right, top to bottom. This is the first thing that happened in the story. This is the next thing that happened in the story. Then this happened, then this happened, this happened, then it ended. Comic strip is a story in boxes that ends on one page. That's one page or less. That's a comic strip. If this was a long story and I needed another page and another page and a bunch of pages to tell the story, that would be a comic book. So comic strip is one page or less. Comic book is more than one page. And so when you draw on the comic strip, same thing, pencil first, trace it with ink, speech bubbles, thought bubbles, narration boxes. The only difference is it's a whole story instead of just one scene. Now, we just have a minute or two, and I just wanted to say one last thing. When you're doing your drawings, never, ever throw away your drawings. Keep your drawings, because even if you don't like it, artists learn from keeping their drawings, even the ones they don't like, and looking back at them. And that way they can see how they've progressed and how they've gotten better. And sometimes they may look back at a drawing and really like it. And they might not have liked it when they did it, but then they look back at it later and they think, oh, I kind of like that drawing. Or maybe it gives them an idea for a drawing they want to do later. And so try not to throw away your drawings. Try to keep them all safe in one place. One good place to do that is like an envelope. If you have any of these kind of envelopes around your house, that would work really well. Also, any of these folders like you have for school, you know, that you use this in school, folder, plastic folder, a paper folder would work. You can even fold over a piece of paper, write your name on it, and put your drawing inside of the paper. For example, you take a piece of paper, fold it in half, write Alex's drawings. Do not touch. Do not throw away, Mom. These are my drawings. And you can then take your drawings and put them inside, and this will kind of hold them together. You know, a bunch of stuff. You can put a rubber band around it, but at least it tells people these are drawings, these are important, don't throw them away. All right, so I think that's just about everything we have here with our drawing. We have our drawings done. We talked about our portfolio. Does anybody have any final questions before we go on and become great artists? Any questions? Okay.
We don't have any questions, but we have one comment here from Sandra. Loved Alex, he explained clearly, would like to see more of him. Do you have any, I don't know, social media you would like to share, or somewhere we can keep track of you?
Well, I have an Instagram. It's mostly photos right now, and I'm on Facebook. You can check out Facebook. It's not I'm in the process of doing a website with my cartoons on it. It's not so much oriented towards teaching, but it's my own cartoons. So just, you know, make sure you have my name, Alex Shapiro. If you Google me, you probably can find these different Instagram, Facebook. And I have my online portfolios like Talent House. Talent House is probably good. If you Google Talent House Alexander Shapiro, that's probably the best way to see my work if you want to look at my work, is at talenthouse.com. And but thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. So if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to be handing back to our host, and she will then have a few final words to say. Thank you, everyone, for coming today and for being in the class. And I wish everyone the best of luck in their future as artists. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thanks everyone for being here with us. And well, I also want to note that, well, everybody who's listening today, this session was recorded, so pay attention to the library's websites because we will be playing it again in the future. And if you enjoy it, please feel free to share with your friends and family. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much um, for supporting these virtual programming. And if you enjoyed it, please spread the word. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alex, for this amazing program. It was amazing. And
Very
this
well.
class was very, very fun. Thanks, Jamaica Center for Arts and Learning, everyone that made possible these programs. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful one.